15 seconds, 15 years. I'm just saying.
Hello and welcome. My name is Jeremy Sabansky, and today I'm going to be interviewing actor-musician Jack Brand. To start, would you like to say what you do and state some of your past works you've worked on?
Well, I am an actor-singer, or really actually a singer-actor now, if you will. My main direction right now is as a singer in a local country band here in Southern California, and that's a full-time gig for me right now. It's my band, and I manage and book the band, and we perform every week. And along with that, I also record, and in the process of getting my recordings out onto the internet on a regular basis, and attempting to generate a worldwide following with that. The acting, I have not been quite as active with, if you will, for the past several years, just because I decided I wanted to spend more time with the music. The way I got into the role of Jack Baker really was sort of a tail end of one of the last auditions I did. As an actor, you're constantly out auditioning. That's really your job as an auditioner. Basically, it's more, you spend more time actually doing that than actually doing the work. So the role of Jack Baker sort of came on the tail end of my decision to, kind of put acting on the side for a while and focus on music. And so it was a nice way to bookend quite a long time. Bookend first getting here in LA, 2004, and then just the years I spent going out and doing various projects. Nothing extremely notable. Some commercials. I did a role in the Punisher movie when I was back in Florida. Actually, it's a funny story how I got that. I lived in St. Petersburg, and they were shooting the movie in Tampa, and we can get into that if you want. But anyway, so you asked me what I did. That's really what I do. I spend more time doing right now. I'm considering if I get back into acting, considering maybe creating my own content, and I'm in the works of sort of putting that together as far as doing some writing and maybe some planning on that. I have a direction in mind, and it's just a matter of putting time into that and in the writing process and sort of conceiving it, putting it together. But mostly now is really spent, quite honestly, I spend more time on music than acting. But that's kind of it. You asked me what I do, so.
Yeah. And for your acting, do you find you like the voice acting aspect more, or the performing on set or on the stage better?
Well, anything's good. It's all good, man. I'd always had a preference for film acting, and that's sort of always the direction that I wanted to move into and to focus on. So I think I always really kind of focused on film acting. But when you're an actor out there throwing your hat out into the ring or world, if you were, especially in a place like Southern California, you go out and you audition for just about anything. Anything that comes your way that pays, you go audition for it, right?
Yeah.
The voice acting was not something I actually did a whole lot of. That was, believe it or not, that was my first experience with voice acting at all. So, but it's all the same, really. You go onto a set and you rehearse scenes, and you do the scenes, and particularly with with voice acting and motion capture, it's a much different process, obviously, than film or television would be, or stage, but it's kind of all kind of essentially the same, really. With the motion capture and voice acting, you've got a whole team of people that handle the post-production aspect of what you do when you go into shoot one day. And obviously the stage or set arena, if you will, is considerably different, I guess, with the voice acting and the motion capture. But it's all good for me, man. Like I said, given a choice as far as what type of acting, I would pursue the film acting more.
Yeah. And in the way of country, when did you start first recording your songs, and what did you find your inspiration was for starting? Like any particular bands or solo singers? Or
it's interesting. I've always been a singer all of my life, and I've always. How old are you, Jeremy?
20. Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
Well, I've been singing since I was probably 7 years old. I never actually started professionally singing until I was probably about your age, about 21 years old. At that time, early 20s, I found a really good voice teacher, sort of mentor, who was a sort of a mentor to me as well when I was living in Clearwater, Florida, and I studied with him for 3 years, and he really opened me up as far as being a vocalist, and really added to my ability to decide or to be versatile in whatever direction I wanted to be as a singer. So, I've always been a pop rock singer, and did some recording and did a lot of covers, a lot of cover bands, but I never really quite knew what I wanted to do, what direction I wanted to go into musically, what I thought resonated with me the most, until I discovered country music. Probably about 6 years ago, I joined a local country band that needed a singer, and I hadn't been too familiar with the genre up until then. And when I was in the process of learning material for that project, it just was like an epiphany to me. It was like, wow, this is it. This is what really resonates with me. This is what I want to do. This is the direction I want to move in. So it always feels good when you can sort of pinpoint a direction. Otherwise you're sort of a wandering generality. I think I was that way for a long time, but I've gotten a lot more targeted with my approach to music and singing and whatnot. So country just seemed to resonate the most with me, for sure. And I'm a pop singer too, so country pop it resonates really well. And country is it's gotten to be sort of a really multi-genre genre, if you will. There's a lot of different types of country. There's traditional, there's pop country. There's a lot of countries even getting into more with more R&B feel, and soul, and so it covers a lot of areas. That genre these days. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. Oh yeah, and for your, when you were looking up the different singers that inspired that particular style you're going for, were there any particular inspirations like Willie Nelson or Kenny Rogers, or maybe some more contemporary artists? Or
I can't pinpoint a particular artist. I can give you preferences as to the artists that I really like, but I can't pinpoint any particular one that country artists that inspired me or that I draw influence on. But the artists that you mentioned, certainly they are influenced. Willie Nelson, any of the probably a lot of the I think that any I think in whatever genre you happen to be focusing on, whether it's rock or pop or country, you should always go back as an artist and listen whatever, not even music, even acting, or if you're into you know, whatever discipline you're into, I think it's always beneficial for you. Creative discipline, I guess, non-creative too. I think it's always beneficial to go back and listen to a lot of the the pioneers, the people that came before you and way before you, and draw upon their influences. So certainly Willie Nelson, some of the guys before him, the traditional country guys, Waylon Jennings and Merle Haggard. Those are all, I would consider those influences. Elvis Presley was my first vocal influence growing up, as a young teenager. So, if you were to pretty much I would say any classic country artist that you would name in the past 20 or 30 years was an influence of mine for sure.
Yeah. So, going to the topic of acting again, jumping around topics a bit there, but
that's okay, man.
Anyways, you said you were in The Punisher, I think, the early 2003, or
when was it? I think it was.
Or was it like the Netflix series? Which one was it?
2003. I don't remember the Thomas Jane. I think it was. It was the guy that was it was the starring role in that movie. I think that's the actor.
Yeah, I think it was Thomas Jane.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
So that was really non-incidental, sort of. It's funny, I still get royalty checks from that, but really, I was living in St. Petersburg and they were shooting it in Tampa, and they were looking for extras. So I just went out there, and I got a role as an extra. I was a SWAT team officer as an extra, and I recall standing at the very front with the other SWAT team members as the director and the producer were talking, and they were conversing amongst themselves, and I overheard them say, we need after the scene's over, we need some guy to step forward and say, okay, fellas, time to get back to work. So I held my hand up. I said, I can do that. So they picked me to do that. So, at the end of this big scene, where the opening of the film, where Thomas Jane enters the room and everybody stands up and gives him a big cheer, a goodbye cheer, right? I was in that crowd, and then I was to be the guy who said, okay, everybody, party's over, get back to work. But as it were, that particular snippet ended up on the cutting room floor, so it never made it into the movie, even though I get royalty checks from that. So that was my movie claim to fame. But I've done, as an actor, you do all kinds of projects. I've done so many projects over the years, probably small projects that nobody's ever even heard of. Small films, you do short films. I'm having to recall my resume here because I have not. That would have been a nice thing to have around. I've not looked at my resume in so long, but there was a soap opera that I would go to do co-starring work on here in L.A. for a while. It was sort of a reoccurring thing, and I can't even recall the name of that. But anyway, but you're like I said, as an actor, you're always going out and working, regardless of whether the projects that you involve yourself with become huge and televised or not. You can still earn a semblance of a living sometimes from stuff that's not, doesn't make it out there. That seems like that's a common question I get is, oh, you're an actor. What have I seen you in? And then you got to go, well, I did this and this, but you probably didn't see me in that, or, so, anyway, I would say that interestingly enough, the Resident Evil, series, thus far, the Resident Evil, Biohazard, Resident Evil 7 is probably my biggest claim to fame thus far. Although I have not done any other voice acting since then, or even really pursued it. Although it's interesting how much I never realized how huge the gaming culture was until I went onto YouTube and I was like, wow, people are really into this, and they're really into the Jack Baker character, and I'm thinking, wow, man, just like it's blown me away, the amount of attention that we've, not only myself but other cast members have gotten, from this game, I guess if you were, but it's interesting. I never have been a gamer myself, so it's been fascinating to watch the attention and to see it unfold.
And for Resident Evil 7, you definitely did the voice performance there, but did you also do any motion capture for the game, or?
Say that. What's that again?
Any motion capture, like facial capture, or?
Well, yes. The way motion capture and that the way that whole sort of process works, if I can recall, is it's kind of a tedious process because they have this big stage set up that looks like half of a football field, and it's indoors. And if you walk onto the stage, you look around the perimeter of the stage, and they have all these cameras, like lined up in perfect rows around this arena, if you will. And I don't quite understand how it works completely myself, but they have markers around the arena, and there's a lot of people on computers, and they're watching. Then you wear a special suit that has markers on it, so that these cameras pick you up as you're walking, and then on the computers of the people who are producing this, they have configured a set which you don't see in the arena, but it's on the computer screen where they're watching. So as you're walking around the computer scene, you're walking around this computerized set that they've created. Although again, you don't see that. They'll create set pieces for you in this arena to work with, but you don't see what the house, the interior of the house. You don't see any of that while you're working. So you're just wearing a suit, and you've got, in many cases, if you're doing close-up work with other actors, you've got a helmet on, and you've got a camera on that helmet. So it's really not, as I recall it, it's an unusual process for an actor to work, to work with all those things on, and you've got this suit that captures the motion as you move. So, but it's funny because when you go back to look at the footage after you've shot it, you appear as a stick figure, in the set. And I guess through the post-production process, they go back and they fill all of that in later on. They make you an actual human body, and they give your face. They give your face they give you a look, the look that they want you to have. But oddly enough, the look that they give you doesn't really look much like you. They just use your stick figure and your motion, your body motion to achieve the movement of that character. So it's really an interesting process. It's a much different process, than the film acting or the television acting. And then in most cases, they're going to record your voice, obviously, while you're running through the scenes, but you go back to the studio at a later date, and you actually redo a lot of those speaking scenes, you watch yourself. It's much like any other looping or process they do with film. If there's a particular part of the scene that you did in the film and they can't hear your voice or what didn't come through, whatever, then you go back and you redo that. You do the looping sessions to redo those recordings. And as a singer, for me, it was the role was really rigorous because it's the Jack Baker role. He's this human being who becomes stricken with this biohazardous disease, right?
Yeah.
And he becomes this monster. He morphs into this monster that you come to see, right? And so that you've got to go into the studio and make all these monster sounds and yell and scream, and it's really, really vigorous for the voice actor, especially for the voice. And there were many times, I would get into heated discussions with the producer over the phone saying, "Hey, I can't come this week because I got to sing this weekend. I gotta perform on stage with my band. I can't wreck my voice and then expect to go perform for 3 or 4 nights after that." So that was a contention with this. I'm sure it's not that. It may not be that way with other maybe other voice motion capture gigs, but with this one it was really tough, man. As a singer to have to do that because you're abusing your voice, and I know. Speaking for some of the other cast members, they'd have to do the same thing. They'd have to yell and scream, and you'd do these sessions for 2 or 3 hours. These voice sessions, and they were tough. And some of them would just lose their voices completely, by the end of the session. So it was just a tough process.
I think there was a lot of drinking of water in the sessions there, and
oh, of course, and they've got, they provide all the little lozenges and. Things like that, and I take my little hot tea with me and warm fluids and whatnot. But none of that. You want to keep the best thing that you can do as a singer or as a voice, a voice actor, a person who uses your voice for a living, is stay hydrated. Keep your vocal folds well hydrated. But other than that, there's really nothing that you can consume that's going to help your throat. It's not going to help your vocal folds. Anything that you swallow, your throat closes off automatically and covers your vocal cords. Otherwise, if you swallowed it, you would choke. So really the only thing that you can do, the most productive thing you can do is stay hydrated while you're doing, any sort of voice acting or anything that's particularly hard on your voice. Or if you're singing a lot, just vocal hydration is the best, and not talking too much, and staying away from long Skype interviews. Just kidding, man. But vocal rest when you can.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to play the game at all?
I'm going to be honest with you. I have never played a video game. I've never played a video game. The most that I can tell you that I've done is I've gone onto YouTube and I've looked at multiple clips that people have posted, multiple scenes of what we did. But other than that, I've not had the game. I've not looked at it. I've not played it. I know people who have, people who are gamers. But interestingly enough, I wouldn't know a video game if you hit me over the head with it.
Yeah. Compared to voice acting, I'd imagine you'd get the sore throat far less. But when you're doing regular stage or film acting, as well as singing,
well, you know what? It really depends on the gig. I mean, you could probably get a movie role or a television role or any other acting role that requires a lot of acting. A lot of screaming and yelling and, morphing into monsters and whatever. And it would be just as equally, if not more so, just as equally rough on your voice. So And singing, obviously as a singer, I sing sometimes 3, 4, 5 days a week, sometimes 2 gigs in one day. And so that has been that's a constant sort of an item that you deal with, as you're working, and always having to be very careful and rest your voice, and you'll get plenty of rest, and don't abuse your body with, drugs or alcohol, and just try to live a healthy life. That's the best, try to live a healthy lifestyle. That's the best thing you can do with your voice, as any kind of a voice actor or singer. But, even, if you're singing on a regular basis a lot, you have to be very mindful. You have to pace yourself. There's some sources online. I was very fortunate to find some free sources online for me that have been very helpful for me as I work through some of these really rigorous gigs, especially with the voice acting and the singing combined in one week, so.
And when you do acting in general, do you find that where do you usually go to audition or find roles to try for, even as a voice actor?
Well, the voice acting roles are put out into the world much like the other acting roles. As an actor here in Southern California, I can't speak for actors everywhere else. There are internet platforms that you can go to, websites that you can belong to, that you can submit yourself to you can go on to those. When you're an actor, you log onto those websites every day. LA Casting, Now Casting, I think is still around, Actors Access, even Craigslist sometimes. Also, your agent might call with something. I don't remember how I booked the audition for Resident Evil. I think I might have auditioned for those people for another role a few years prior to, and then when they were casting this role for Resident Evil, they called me back in to read for that. So, but that might have been like Now or Actors Access website that I submitted myself through. And you have your profile loaded up on these websites so that you can just go and submit yourself. You go down the roles and submit yourself on whatever roles you want. And I haven't even done that for a while. I've kind of been out of touch with that myself, as far as even submitting the roles that I've been. I do auditions now, but they're kind of few and far between. My agent calls and sends me out on commercials and whatnot. I did some sort of a pharmaceutical commercial audition not too long ago where I can't remember the name of it. It was some sort of arthritis commercial, but they had it was the commercial was in 2 parts. One part is they wanted to see if you could ride a horse and how well you could do that, and then the second part was you'd get into the room with a woman that they might select for the role, and you read with this woman because the commercial spot was really around her and the arthritis she had in her hand, and so that was interesting because I hadn't ridden a horse in so long. So I went to the Hollywood Ranch, and I did a horse riding session, because we were going to do the audition at the ranch the next morning at that very same place. So that was fun. So I did that, and then did the audition the next day. I didn't get the role, or I didn't book the commercial, but those things come along every so often. And if I see one that looks right to me, I'll go audition for it.
How do you suggest that an upcoming singer, voice actor, or actor would promote him or herself?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, there's
because you have to start from somewhere, but generally standing out from other voice actors and singers must generally be a hard task to do.
Well, as far as acting is concerned, any kind of acting really, the best way, when you're promoting yourself as an actor, you're promoting yourself to the gatekeepers of these productions who are actually producing the work. You know, that's who you're promoting to. You're not promoting to the general public. You're not looking for a fan base. If you're promoting yourself to gatekeepers of hopefully large enough productions that once they're shot and they're produced, they're going to be put out into the world as some sort of content, and that's going to be your promotion, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Resident Evil was. You know, we just, as actors, we showed up and did our stuff for the camera and for the studio, and you know, the producers and the production teams handled the rest, and they put together a slick product and put it out there in the world, and it was a hit, and people bought it, and that was my promotion for that. And then what I would often do as a singer to promote my own singing content is I would go online and I would tag a lot of the Resident Evil videos that people would post. I'd look for the ones that had like thousands of views, and I would include them in the tags for my own YouTube videos. I would put the specific names of the channels, and then it was funny because those tags would bring people to my YouTube channels, and they would say, I would read comments like, Jack Baker sent me here, or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Yes, I read a lot of those. I went onto your channel and I saw, I think the first video I saw on there was your demo reel for acting there.
Yeah.
And throughout that video, I saw a whole bunch of comments, sort of like, at this point in the video, I can kind of hear the Jack Baker coming out in the voice there. And you get a lot of those comments, but you also have ones like, I kind of like the performance at this time here, and a lot of different variations of sometimes the same comment and sometimes a slightly unique comment there.
Yeah.
And I'd be lying if I said that how I found out about you was because I went online and I searched the voice actors that played in Resident Evil, and it was also there. I found out that the models that were used for the faces as well as for the voices were different as well there.
Yeah.
So I actually saw an interesting video which was about the creation process where they took the head of the actor and they got them into this sort of camera setup, or it was actually more of a clay. They cast the character's face, then they scanned it, and they did their wizardry, which I'm still trying to learn because I'm learning a bit of 3D myself.
Okay.
Working with Blender, and I've been trying to do motion capture, failing and trying again, but more or less, yeah.
Oh well, you know, you've got something there that you're interested in and you want to learn more of, man. You definitely embrace it. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about the process myself, and I didn't do a lot of research on it. But like I said, if there's a creative medium there that you're into, by all means embrace it, you know, and go after it. For sure. I mean, at 20 years old, man, you know, the world is yours, man. It's your time to go for it. You know, embrace it all. Are you interested in more behind the scenes production work and stuff like that?
A bit of that, and also voice acting. I started a while back doing different impressions of different characters I liked. One of which was a very hoarse voice, and that's when I tried to not strain it quite as much because I was like, "Holy crap! I'm starting to sometimes sound a bit older than I intend to."
Well, I would suggest that any voice actor or actor, even if you're not a singer, to go out and find a good vocal coach, a good voice teacher, and study with him. I actually learned a lot from Mark Baxter, who's online, who's got quite a lot of. He's probably got 150 videos online, free information. You just go onto YouTube and he's on there. I had hands-on vocal study when I was your age, but I would encourage you to find a voice teacher in your area if you can, somebody who's really good and reputable to work with, because it's really instrumental that if you're going to do any sort of that type of voice work that you get some vocal training for sure.
You are within the area of Los Angeles, there.
Yeah, I'm about probably 17 miles southeast of Hollywood. So yeah, I'm in the greater Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
But I live in a town called a little city called Bell, Incorporated City, which is, as I said, about 17 miles. It's considered southeast LA.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a huge sprawling town, LA. That's for sure.
Yeah. And do you have any upcoming acting or musical projects you can disclose? Or
well,
like
I haven't, like, as I said, been focusing on the acting. I've been putting out music content. I try to do a single release about once a month. So you can find me if you just let's see. I have several different YouTube channels. I have a Karaoke Cowboy channel, which is a channel I just kind of play with and throw up content that I do. And then I have a Jack Clark Brand channel, which is my artist channel. I'm in the process of growing followers and a fan base for that. And then I have another channel. What is the name of it? Well, if you just go to those channels, the Jack Clark Brand, also www.jbjunction.net is a website. I have jackbrandmusic.net, I believe.
That was one that contacted you on the jackbrandmusic.net, I think. Yeah,
there's that one. I get up on all the platforms. I release SoundForge, Reverb Nation. There's one, I'm trying to think. Oh, Bandcamp. You can find me on Bandcamp. I'm on, when I release my singles, I release them through CD Baby, which you can go to find me. You can also find me on Spotify, iTunes, any of the worldwide online distributors. You can find me. I've just released my most recent single was It's Gonna Take Some Time, which should be available on Spotify. But the listeners or viewers can go to Spotify and certainly find me there. Right now, my main goal is to just keep putting out content, not so much in the manner of a signed recording artist, but as a DIY artist. I think for me, it's important to get as much of a body of work out there as you can, and then maybe be promoting it in the meantime, and generating a fan base. You asked earlier how we promote ourselves. The actor promotes himself differently. Most actors promote themselves to the gatekeepers, which then hire them for their projects, and then they produce a project, and then that gets the actor marketing. But as a DIY artist, as a singer, or even as a DIY actor, if you're creating your own content, you have to create the content yourself, put it out into the ether. Hopefully it'll get eyeballs, and you build a fan base that way. As a singer, you have to put your stuff out there, and the marketing is the most intensive, most challenging part of the process. The content creating is the fun part. It's the marketing that's, getting yourself out into the world. That's the most difficult process, for sure.
It's getting lucky and also trying to find the formula for what works best for you in marketing yourself. Yeah?
I think so. There's certainly methods of marketing out there that a lot of DIY artists have done and that are doing, and that work for them. And you try stuff, you try things that other people have tried, I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of. I don't look at it as try, fail. I look at it as just you keep trying, and any failure really. There's no failure. I think that it's all successes. Anything that you do elevates you to the next step, right?
Yeah.
It's not really a failure to me in a sense. It's just you've got to stay disciplined and keep doing what keep working your craft. And part of that craft as a DIY artist is the marketing, and getting your marketing efforts and your marketing protocols together, right? Yeah. It's some work, that's for sure, but if you're doing it yourself, got to do it.
Yeah. And
yeah, I would say I would encourage listen to my latest release. It's going to take some time. It was written by a local guy here in LA, Larry J, and we recorded it and put it out not too long ago. So that's my most recent release. And then, like I said, every month or so I try to get a new release out. But if you come across any viewers that are interested, I'm out there. You can find me.
And it kind of also goes into another question which I had, which is if there were any lines from a role, either voice acting or acting, that stuck with you.
There was a line that I kept hearing or kept reading when I would go to read some of those YouTube comments on those Resident Evil videos, and I can't recall it right now, that people would repeat a lot that I would say. You might know. I can't recall.
Welcome to the Family Son, was that it?
Yeah, Welcome to the Family Son. I think I heard that a lot.
Welcome to the Family Son. That's all I got.
I can only go back on my musical body of work and go, well, these particular songs I really liked. And my first EP that I released was the Chasing a Rainbow EP. I liked a lot of the songs on that, the songs that I discovered to record for that. But my process certainly has improved since that album. My recording process and the type of equipment that I'm using now is certainly improved. So if I were to go back and re-record those songs, as much as I like those songs, or reproduce them, which I'm probably going to at least remaster them, those are probably the material that of the original, my first EP are songs that really resonated with me. And then the songs that I recorded after that, it's singles. There were several, Lone Star Memories and a handful of other tunes. Trying to think of anything off the top of my head. If I like a cover, I'll record an Elvis. I recorded an Elvis cover not too long ago. Love Letters is the name of the song that I really liked, and I think I did a great job on that. Although it's probably not, maybe not relevant for younger listeners as much as an older audience, but really liked the work I did on that. But I just strive to be better, with every new piece of content that I create. I don't strive for perfection, because I don't think that exists with me. I think you can, in many cases, as an artist, as a DIY artist, you can sort of suffer from perfection paralysis, where you may not put a piece of work out, or you may keep working at something thinking that you've got to make it perfect before you can release it. And I don't do that. If you listen to my work, anything that I put out, that I've produced myself, there are plenty of imperfections, but I don't think it's important to be perfect as much as it is to produce a good song that will influence people, right? That will affect somebody. And you don't have to be singing on pitch every note necessarily for that.
Something that you think sounds good.
Right. You don't want to sing out of tune, but a note off pitch here and there is not going to affect what a listener thinks of your recording or how it affects them, generally speaking.
Mm.
And I think that goes with any piece of art, what you're putting out, whatever medium you're putting out there, just get it out there. Just do the best you can and put it out,
Yeah, I think many people can relate to the trying to work on a project and then trying to perfect it, when in reality, you're kind of you'll always be working because sometimes you reach a certain state where nothing is truly perfect in your eyes, and you try and keep on mashing away at it, but there's no progress. So at one point or another, you have to eventually release it.
Right.
And you have to work past that vision that everything I do is flawed in some way, and you have to kind of if you can find the flaws and embrace them in some ways and try and work with the flaws if you can do that.
Or sometimes the flaws may not even be noticeable to anyone else who's listening, right?
Yeah.
Or viewing, or whatever art medium it is. And as you say, the flaws might even add to the creation somehow, right? That can be embraced, So, I don't get hung up on that too much. Otherwise you wouldn't put anything out. You go, oh, I can't put that out. It's not perfect, or it's got this wrong with it or that wrong. You just create the art and put it out there, man. And start generating a fan base. Build a following.
Yeah.
And we as DIY artists and creators, content creators. Granted, there's a lot of content out there because there's so many people out there creating it, but we do have, the large corporations, recording corporations aren't cornering the market anymore on that. We have the internet, we have the great equalizer. We can get our, there are distributors out there that are accessible to artists, and we can get our material out there, a lot easier than we could 10 years ago, right? Or 15.
Yeah.
I was going to say I have an idea for as far as a self-produced acting series. I have an idea for a web series that I've been sort of working on behind the scenes, trying to write a script for, or configure a storyline for, that I've been working on. I think that will be my next maybe major thing, is attempting to get that going getting that off the ground, and it works hand in hand with my music too. So I can do both. I can cover both the acting and the singing and the acting, both the acting and the singing in the web series, the creation. So
at an earlier point, you mentioned remastering your tracks. I was wondering about if you've had any previous experience with that, because I wondered if it's any parts re-recording, or if it's mostly sort of tweaking the existing audio to be much more clear, and because
it could be both, provided I'm in the process right now of organizing all of my assets, consolidating my assets, and as a matter of fact, when we're through with our interview here, I've got to go back and try to locate the master recordings to my Chasing a Rainbow EP, so I can go back. And I don't think I'm going to do anything as far as re-recording, but just to remaster those tracks. A lot of times, when on our computers, we've got information scattered everywhere, and we've got to go back and look at the far corners of hard drives, to try to find information that we misplaced or we haven't accessed in a while. So I'm in the process of just trying to get that a little more organized. But, if I could find the original recordings, with, in the program that I actually created the song in, I could do some re-record some parts if I could find those recordings. But that's a task in itself that I'm going to partake in shortly here. And some of the stuff doesn't need to be recorded. just needs to be mastered. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's a decent software, and then I have a really basic recording setup. It's not really elaborate, but it's enough to get good content out. So I believe the creator of Pro Tools also created the Studio One software platform, or was instrumental in helping create it. Don't quote me, but I think that was the case. I appreciate your reaching out to me, Jeremy, and allowing me to present myself in this interview to you. I appreciate that.
No problem. It was good to meet you as well, and learn about your different experiences in the music and acting careers there.
For sure, man. And I would encourage you to consider me a friend of yours and to reach out anytime.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Stay warm in Ottawa.
All right.